This video is going to go through the process of doing a import from AutoQuotes, taking it through the positive quote, positive sales order, create POs, create invoices, and finish the sale with an invoice. So let's start with the maintenance and select import. And we're going to select import AutoQuotes. At this point here, we pick our project. I've got a project already picked out, but whatever you download from AutoQuotes must be in a JSON format. I'm going to select import. It's looking for the two vendors that I have available, and both of them are linked, so I have no issue with having to make the system create new vendors, and the system import will create the vendors for us. Moving on with a continue. It brings in the items, and what I do here is I just click verify all. They say that these are linked already. Here's newly added. So I just say verify all. That will then link all my items and create them in positive from the AutoQuote JSON file. I hit continue. It says who is the vendor. I can change my vendor, and I'll change it to the B spot, which has all the address and all the information in, and select that and continue. The import is completed, and I close. Now I go over to my transactions, pending quotes. This quote should be identical to your AutoQuote proposal that you could have printed out from the AutoQuote system. Everything is here, all the notes, all the information is here for you. If we select print, and I'll do a customer print preview, I can show the cost or hide the cost. I'll show the cost. And then here is my quote, and again with all the information that was in your proposal, with a grand total of $173,000. At this time, I can convert this quote to a sales order, which will commit my inventory. So I'm saying convert to a sales order. I can go right to an invoice, to my job cost system, to a service order, or to contract pricing. This converted it into my sales order, and I'm going to save it. It asks which date we're going to process this on, and apply a payment. Yes, we're going to apply a payment, and we're going to ask for $50,000 down. The customer does have a store credit. We can apply the credit. Do you want to use this credit? No. And he's going to give us a check. And this was the check number. Do I want to print this? I can print a picking ticket if I wish. The order, both. I'll just bypass that. Okay, so now this is a sales order. And once it's a sales order, I have the ability to create purchase orders. So if I go to my Create PO, here's a list of all the items that were on that sales order. Now, if this is going to be a drop ship, what I have to do is I have to say that I am going to tag all and say I am going to change the tagged to a different method. And I'm going to say I'm going to drop ship it. So if I look at my drop ships, I have to tag all again. And now I'm going to convert the tag to a drop ship. So here's all my items. They're all going to be drop shipped. I have to say, it's got little question marks here, meaning do I want to go ahead and create a PO for that item? I'm going to say tag all, and then I'm going to say create POs. It's created 2 purchase orders, one for Cleveland Range and one for True. Close this, and I'll close this. All right, let's go into our purchasing system, and we're going to go to Create Receive PO. You'll notice both of these have trucks. That mean they're being drop shipped. They're not coming into our warehouse. They're being drop shipped to the customer. So I'm going to take this first item and I'm going to say Place Edit. It's asking if we're going to do anything more by adding more items to this particular purchase order, and we're not. So I'm going to say Save, Process Now. You would use the save if you didn't want to process it yet and you want to come back to this one, but I'm going to process this. Do you want to print a PO, email a PO? I'm going to print the purchase order. And here is our purchase order. It uses a full spec as our description. It's got the AutoQuote line numbers. All the information is here that mimics your AutoQuote proposal. And these numbers help the vendor package things properly because these match the drawing numbers. We'll do the second one. Okay, so these have been sent out, and now we're waiting for receivers. Now you'll notice only one came up. If you select the filter over here, you can say that you want to have all the vendors showing, not just Cleveland, but all the vendors showing. And you can also select the employees. You only want certain purchase orders that were created by certain people or all of them. So everything's good on that. Let's go ahead and receive the first True shipment. I need a packing slip or an invoice number. If there's freight, I'd put that on there also. What date did it actually arrive? And what is the invoice date? I'm going to say Receive All. And this will receive everything that came in. If I didn't receive all, and there was something that was not received, I could go to the line, and just by double-clicking that line, I have the ability to say I didn't receive this particular item, and that purchase order will be left open for that one item only. I can also look at my invoice and verify that yes, the cost is correct, or no, I want to change the cost. So if everything is good here, I've received all my items, I say Save, Receive Now. And it allows me to make any price changes if there are any. I can change my list price if the cost went up. and it's going through each of the items, and everything is being drop shipped. Let's do the second one. I'm going to say that I'm going to receive all. And I'm going to receive now. And complete. Okay, as you can see, my POs have been totally processed. And now when I close this and I go back to transactions, pending, sales orders, you'll see that I have nothing on back order anymore because it is being drop shipped, so it really never is going to be coming out of our inventory. So I am going to convert this to an actual invoice now, this first one, invoice. Here's a list of everything on the invoice. They do have a credit, but we're not going to apply it. And they did give us a $50,000 deposit. So we're going to put this on their store account for the balance. We're going to have to adjust the credit limit because it's only for $10,000. We're just going to allow this to go through without changing our credit limit. We're going to say OK. You want to print a packing slip? We can do that if we wish. We can have the invoice print. This is a 40 column. And we'll look at the 80 column. And this is our invoice. Once again, with all the information just like you sent to your customer initially. And as we go to the bottom here, we see that they used the $50,000 deposit that we had taken, and we put $134,000 on account. Sales tax was $11,000. Okay, that invoice now has been completed. Now let's go over to our accounting system and let's look at AP processing. Here we see invoices that were created today. This is 314, and this one is 314. The red and the yellow, red means we're out of the discount period because we have no discount terms for this particular vendor. This one we do have discount terms of 2%, and we can get an $1,800 discount if we pay within the discount period. These other two were from prior sales back on 3/9. So what we're going to do is we're going to take in these two only. We're going to check mark those and say post approved. Now these are the only two left as unposted because perhaps we haven't received the invoice in from the customer or vendor. So let's go to posted, and we have the same two invoices that we did on the 14th. So we can pay these. If I want to pay Cleveland Range, I highlight that field and say pay unpay, or I can pay all of them or unpay all of them or pay by a date range. So if I say pay unpay, this is the one I'm going to pay, process paid. It's going to what they call unassigned. I can drill down here and I'm going to print checks, I want to do an ACH payment, or I want to do a credit card payment. If I leave it unassigned, it will just print checks. This is where it asks which checking account it's going to use. So since I got everything here, I'll say process, and I can click preview, and that will give me a remittance form. If I have a whole bunch of invoices, I can attach that in the envelope with the invoice to the vendor. So now that I'm done, close, let's go to the checkbook. You'll see in our print checks here, we have the Cleveland range ready to print. Now the first thing I have to do is I got to find out what was the last check number I used. So if I take this to the top, and notice there is no check number because I haven't printed a check. The last one I printed was 515. That's the next check that's in the box with the checks. So we stick them in our printer. We hear and say 515. I'm using one part check, which is a 8.5 by 11 check perfed into thirds, and we're using laser checks. But since you can't see the checks, I'm going to say preview, and that way you'll be able to see what the checks look like. Those checks are totally modifiable to your forms. Okay, if everything looks good, I say print checks. And this is a standard check form. As I say, perfed in the thirds. Okay, so if we go to the top now, we find that the last check was on 515 on Cleveland Range. So I close that, and my process has been completed. Now, if I go to my invoice history, I'll see the one we just did for Crocker Park, and this is all the information on that invoice that we did today. If I wanted to print it again or email it to the customer, I can do that. So that is the whole process from taking the AutoQuote quote all the way through to getting it to our customer with a dropship, invoicing our customer, and paying the vendor.